Hello, my friends. Welcome back to Horizon English Stories. I am so glad you are here today. Take a deep breath and imagine this. A man dies in pain, believing he is a failure. And later, the world calls him a genius. While he lived, he was poor, lonely, and almost forgotten. After his death, his paintings were sold for millions. How can a life filled with suffering leave behind so much beauty? Let us step into his story together. In May 1990, at Christie's in New York, bright lights filled the room. Under those cold and shining lights, Van Gogh's portrait of Dr. Gauguin was sold for $82.5 million. At that time, it set a new world record for a work of art at auction. People clapped loudly. They were cheering for a great painting, and also for an unbelievable price. But if we turn the clock back 100 years, we see a very different world. The year 1890. In Auvers, France. A 37-year-old painter returns to his inn with a gunshot wound. He has lived through years of poverty, illness, and loneliness. 2 days later, he dies with his younger brother Theo beside him. That man is Vincent van Gogh. Today, almost everyone knows his name. But when he was alive, his life was full of pain. He was often poor. Few people cared about his paintings. His mind broke down again and again. The man the world would later admire was almost never understood in his own lifetime. That sharp contrast is one of the saddest parts of Van Gogh's story. Vincent van Gogh was born on the 30th of March, 1853, in the south of the Netherlands. From the beginning, his life carried a shadow. 1 year before his birth, on the same date, his mother Anna had given birth to a baby boy who died. That child was also named Vincent. So the new baby grew up with the same name, and with a strange, heavy feeling around it. His mother was strict, and the home often felt quiet and serious. Van Gogh was a sensitive child. He wanted love very deeply. He also wanted people to accept him. That deep need stayed with him for many years. Even later in life, he still seemed like a child who wanted to be seen, loved, and understood. Still, Van Gogh did not come from a poor family. His family was respected. They were educated, religious, and connected to the art world. As a young man, Van Gogh worked as an art dealer. He could have followed a safe and proper path. He could have lived a stable life. But he was not the kind of person who could simply follow the road that others chose for him. He tried many jobs. He worked as an art dealer. He tried teaching. He worked in a bookshop. For a time, he also wanted to become a preacher. In his 20s, he went to a poor mining area in the south of Belgium. He wanted to bring faith to people who lived very hard lives, but he took this calling very seriously. He gave his food and clothes to the poor. He lived in simple places. He stayed close to the miners and shared their suffering. He believed true faith should not stay on a church stage. He believed it should walk into pain and stand beside people who were hurting. But the church did not agree with this way of living. Only a few months later, he lost that position. The reason sounded proper and official, but in truth, it felt like a cold slap in the face. He did not fit their idea of a respectable preacher. This was not Van Gogh's first failure, and it would not be his last. His work life kept falling apart. He had little money. His mental state became more and more unstable. His family slowly stopped knowing what to do with him. It was not because he did not try. He tried with all his heart. But the warmest and most honest parts of him seemed to crash again and again into the hard wall of the real world. At the age of 27, after a series of failures, he decided to become an artist. He started late. Other people had already gone far down the road of art. Van Gogh was like a man who had arrived too late. He was awkward, serious, and full of urgency. Still, he began. He studied drawing. He studied the human body, space, and light. He drew rough hands, tired faces, fields, workers, potatoes, and earth. His love life also brought him pain. The year 1882. In The Hague, Van Gogh met a woman named Cienne. She was poor, weak, and pushed to the edge by life, just as he was. She already had a child, and she was pregnant. Van Gogh took her in. He also asked her to model for his drawings. He wanted to give her a home, in some way. He also wanted to give one to himself. For a short time, he touched a kind of warmth. But warmth can be fragile. Poverty, pressure, and social judgment slowly broke that relationship. In the end, Cienne left, and Van Gogh returned to silence and loneliness once more. In 1886, Van Gogh went to the Antwerp Academy to study art. There, he faced strong criticism from his instructor, Eugene Sibert, and from other teachers. To them, Van Gogh's basic training was too weak. They did not like his work because it did not fit the main taste of that time. In the 19th century, the art world wanted academic realism. People admired perfect lines, smooth skin, and careful balance. But Van Gogh did not want this kind of perfection. He believed that art should express raw feeling and passion. Before going to Antwerp, he had already painted his first major masterpiece, The Potato Eaters. In that painting, the faces of the peasants are rough, dark, and tired. Van Gogh believed that only such rough lines could truly show the hardship of their daily lives. But almost nobody understood him. In about 10 years of work, he made more than 2,000 artworks. During his lifetime, he sold very few paintings. The best-known example is The Red Vineyard. To many people around him, he looked like a madman, a drifter, and a failure. Van Gogh once wrote that he felt like a nobody, an outsider, and a man without a place in society. But he decided to keep painting until the very end, simply because he loved art. And there was one light in his life, his younger brother, Theo. Theo was a successful art dealer. Until the day Vincent died, Theo paid for much of his brother's living costs. He encouraged him, he comforted him, he believed in him when almost no one else did. Years later, Theo named his own son Vincent after his brother. That choice says a great deal. Theo admired his older brother's spirit. He saw courage in him, even when the rest of the world saw failure. In February 1888, Van Gogh moved south to Arles, France. By this time, his physical health was failing. He suffered from insomnia, fevers, and repeated mental breakdowns. In the famous yellow house in Arles, he seemed to catch fire in the sunlight. He painted fields, cafes at night, and sunflower after sunflower. In his hands, yellow became the color of life, warmth, and a desperate cry for hope. He dreamed of building a small artists' community there. He invited the painter Paul Gauguin to live with him. He thought he had found a partner who could understand his soul. But once again, reality broke his hope. Gauguin was hard and controlled. Van Gogh was intense and emotional. They argued often. In the winter of 1888, after a terrible fight, Gauguin left. Not long after that, Van Gogh lost control of himself and cut off part of his left ear. From then on, many townspeople feared him. Some wanted him removed. In the end, he was sent to the mental hospital at Saint-Rémy. Yet it was there that he painted some of his most powerful works. Between hospital rooms, gardens, and a small piece of sky outside his window, Van Gogh kept painting. He wanted to leave every last bit of light behind before the darkness became too strong. In June 1889, he painted The Starry Night. It is not a quiet night scene. It is a universe turning, moving, and breathing. The blue sky flows like heavy waves. The moon and stars burn with golden fire. The cypress tree rises like a dark flame. This was not the sky as the eye normally sees it. It was the sky as a suffering soul felt it in the deep night. In one of his letters, Van Gogh suggested that death might be like taking a train to the stars. For him, the stars were not only beautiful, they were also a kind of comfort. In 1890, Van Gogh moved to Auvers, near Paris, under the care of Dr. Gachet. These were his final months, but his brushstrokes grew faster and stronger, as if he knew time was short. He painted fields, roads, routes, houses, and skies with great urgency. Among these late works was Wheatfield with Crows, one of the most powerful paintings of his final period. The sky is dark and heavy. The wheatfield is bright and restless. Black crows fly across the scene. It feels less like a landscape and more like a troubled farewell. In July 1890, a shot was fired. Van Gogh was wounded. Whether he shot himself or was hurt in some other way is still debated today. But 2 days later, he died. Theo was with him at the end. The bond between the two brothers was one of the most important parts of Van Gogh's life. Without Theo, it is hard to imagine the Van Gogh we know today. After Vincent died, Theo was broken by grief. Only 6 months later, he also died. Today, in the quiet cemetery at Auvers, the two brothers lie side by side, their graves covered with green ivy. In life, the world was often cold to them. In death, they are still together. While Van Gogh lived, the world did not welcome him. But slowly, the world began to see him. People came to understand that his twisted lines were not weakness. His strong colors were not simply wild. His restless paintings were not only signs of madness, they were the record of a human life. They were made from pain, feeling, love, and dignity. Maybe that is why we still return to his paintings today. We do not only see sunflowers or starry nights, we see a man who was left behind by life, but who still did not stop loving and did not stop trying to leave light in a dark world. And in some ways, learning a language can feel like that too. There are nights when new words feel dry and dull, There are days when practice seems to give nothing back. There are moments when your progress feels too slow and you begin to doubt yourself. But each small step still matters. Each word stays with you. Each effort leaves a mark. One day, those small lights will join together and become your own sky. So take your time. Walk forward, step by step. Expand your vocabulary. Expand your world. Welcome to Horizon English Stories.